Beerzerker!
Alright, what's going on? Got some beers here. I'm gonna link up Ethan's fucking beers from Ethan's Beer Reviews of this thing he did with the Rebel IPA and the Goose IPA. And I went into a Great Canadian Wholesale Liquor Club. And two new brews that are new to Canada, as far as I know, or at least to my province, showed up. Both the Rebel IPA and the Goose IPA. So it was a bit of a coincidence there, and I just like clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, I remember Ethan's review. So I went and rewatched that again today. So I'm going to put a link up to that review, which is pretty awesome, because he did a blind taste test. I'm not doing it blind. Of that. Although this is, keep in mind, the Canadian brewed version of the Goose IPA, which could have been brewed at either Vancouver, Edmonton, Creston, London, Montreal, St. John's. So a plethora of breweries, which I believe are sort of tied in with Molson Coors, but I thought the American Goose was brewed by AB InBev. But I'm not even sure anymore. All I know is the man got a hold of the beer, right? So we're going to taste what happened. And let's just kind of zoom in here and a little shot of these beers. Alright. That was the Stooges' I Want to Be Your Dog played backwards. So that was pretty cool, I thought. Anyway, so these beers poured, and the cool thing about having Ethan's American Goose comparison side by side handy is right away you'll notice that the Canadian Goose is a dark, well, not dark, but it's much darker than this one. It's more of an amber, like I would say East Coast style IPA. As if you, when you check out his review in the link, they're both essentially the same color. You couldn't tell them apart in a blind taste, so you could switch them up. This one, you could switch these up, and all day long, you know that this one's the Goose, because there's no way you could even do a blind taste test with this Canadian version. It would be impossible, because obviously, this amber beer over here is the Goose, as the Sam Adams over here. And one thing I did notice is, as they warmed up, the Sam Adams was really great off the start, like a lot better than the Goose at the start. And then what happened is the Sam Adams got pretty nasty by the end. So we'll elaborate a little bit on that. So I'm going to start off with the Goose first, essentially, because this is a West Coast IPA basically, and it has a lot of hops shining through in comparison to this one, okay, which doesn't have a whole lot. So we're gonna check this one out. So bit of ruby maltage, bit of that amber. You're smelling it like an amber ale. This is quite cool. These are both quite cold. It's quite sweet through the middle. And there's essentially, for myself, zero hops almost. It tastes like just a straight up Marzen almost. Okay, there's a bit of hops. You get a big mouthful of. There's a bit of grapefruit in the finish for sure. Straight, clean. Grapefruit, bit of grapefruit peel. Not a whole lot else there. The problem is the first when I did this before, and I drank the Rebel IPA first, which was a huge mistake. So that's why I'm doing this again, because that just didn't work. palate wasn't having it. Okay, now I'm dealing with the goose a lot more. A lot better than I was before. Before I was like, this is garbage after drinking this, because I mean you couldn't taste anything in here after the Rebel IPA. This is very mild. In fact, this beer is only 5.9%, so it's only 6%. So for an IPA, I don't know, is that, check your BCPA, BJ fucking awards people or whatever, handbook, handjob book, BJ handjob book, to see if that even constitutes an IPA. Is that even allowed in the BJCP handjob book? Keep sipping on it. Even the head's darker. Well, no, maybe not really. Looked like that when I first poured it. It's a little more white on top. Okay, if you're not really a beer snob, you might not know any better for this, but it definitely is verging on shitty craft beer. It's a little nutty. The malts are a little fucky. Especially with like brown ales and amber ales, I find with shitty craft beer, you really notice the fucked up maltiness of them. They really come through as just syrup. This isn't the worst example of that. It's not. It definitely has a nice sweetness up front. It's drinkable, but there is a little bit of that in the back, in the far realms of it. Deep within the Goose IPA, there's a bit of shitty craft beer hidden within it. The aroma's not that inviting. It's yeasty. Malty, it's like yeasty and malt, as what I'm expecting out of anything that says IPA on it. Like when it has big letters that say Goose IPA, especially for Goose Island IPA. I mean, come on. Seriously? IPA. How hard is it to brew a fucking IPA? Not very. I mean, everyone's doing it, and I mean, considering what I had to pay for this shit, I could have got a lot better beer actually for cheaper. For cheaper, I could have got a beer that would just blow this out of the water. Fucking kill it. Pretty bland. Though it is drinkable, it is sessionable, but it does taste mass-produced, a slight bit of syntheticness there. But it is kind of pleasant. There is kind of like that nice, sweet, kind of amber malts there. It's like an amber ale. I would call it an amber ale with American hops. I wouldn't even call it an IPA. It does have a bit of like Earl Grey tea kind of tannins going on, so it does kind of have like that tea kind of tannins that infiltrate the palate, kind of like that woody. I'll say tea tannins, more like just the tea. So this is a beer for teabaggers, which you would expect the Rebel IPA to be a teabagger beer, but this is definitely the teabagger beer of the two. Now let's move on to the Rebel IPA. Okay, some really cool hops going on with the Rebel IPA, I gotta admit. Very pungent, floral. Kind of hard to describe exactly. Once this does get down there, though, you're getting pure natural gas. So let's... Very creamy head now that it's densed down. It's really looking nice. Almost like a... I don't dare say a Guinness head, but like something... Oh, kind of like that. It's just super creamy. Oh, yeah. Punch to the face with the hops. Getting all up in there. Citrus big time. Orange. Grapefruit peel, like white grapefruit, like harsh grapefruit. But not over kill on the palate of the grapefruit. But it definitely is there in the finish. A little bit of pininess, but there's like this like cat piss. Natural gas in the back. In the back for sure. That You can't get around. I mean, that's a big part, but that is the part of the hops that are making this real juicy, though, too. So this is a juicy West Coast. I want to be a juicy West Coast thing, but as for quality, it's almost in the same realm. Like, because I'm redoing this because when I went to the goose one after this one, I couldn't even taste the goose, and I just tasted the flaws. I couldn't taste any hops or any of the nice amber malts. All I tasted was shit craft beer, basically, which isn't too far from the truth. But this, okay, I'm more of like I'm a West Coast kind of IPA junkie more, so I could definitely drink much more of this. Unfortunately, I have 12 of the Goose and only 6 of the Rebel. Because the Goose comes in 12 packs in Canada now, apparently. So be warned. And the thing I came to the conclusion in with kind of getting into these beers is it's a really good example of why you should support your local craft breweries, especially the great ones, because this is what happens when the man gets a hold of the beer, right? I mean, basically, corners cut here, corners cut there. I mean, we're looking at Goose Island and Sam Adams here. I think is an important kind of point or whatever. It's probably a few different words that I'm not intelligent enough to know for that description. But okay, these beers could be a lot fucking better, both of them. Although Sam Adams, you can tell they're really trying to bring the hops up front, but it's kind of bland all through the middle. It's juicy enough, but it could be just a little bit more. It could be a little more full, even for a West Coast. A dry one, it could be a little juicier. It could be this and that. Like Sam Adams, it's got to have the money that they can go around and get a decent recipe. They got to, like there's a lot of home brewers and shit. They could even just pay those guys. You pay a home brewer that's good $1,000. They'll go find you a recipe, man. That's not the issue here. I don't think it shouldn't be the issue. A lot of natural gas in the back, but I would gravitate more towards the Rebel, especially like on draft, especially fresher when those hops are really coming out. But yeah, it's just definitely a natural gas, kitty litter box, cat piss kind of experience. And now if I go back to the Goose, I won't even taste it after that. I will say the Goose Island has kind of a little bit of a nicer head. Well, no, not really. They both have really nice heads to the beer. They're very, very low carb, very creamy. Actually, the Sam Adams was really nice too. The Goose Island at first is really frothy. These are very mediocre beers, and actually they're quite even. So basically, when you're dealing with the Canadian version of these beers, if you're at least wherever this one came from, the question is, do you want an East Coast IPA, a mediocre East Coast IPA, or do you want a mediocre West Coast IPA? Because there are worse beers than both of these for sure out there, but I mean, as beer snobs, I'm not going to pick this up ever again. I'm going to have a hard time getting rid of this stuff. I'm going to have to... I won't even say it. Enjoy your beer mails. Lots of Goose Island in there. Yeah, I'm really disappointed. So, I'm just saying, damn people. There's so many local craft brews and IPA that I would just steer clear of either of this. And I will plug Sam Adams and Goose Island are great breweries. I just don't know what the fuck they're doing with their IPA line. I think this is bullshit because Sam Adams brewed a great pumpkin beer this year. I did it. It was awesome. I would buy it again. I'm probably going to go back and pick up like stragglers from the liquor store of the Samuel Adams pumpkin beer. It was really good. And Goose Island, I've had their Sophie. They brought up their Matilda, and I wish I could get their Bourbon County line. I know everyone does, and I don't. I'm assuming that's a great beer. But I mean, there's no excuse for Goose Island brewing a shitty IPA other than money. And Sam Adams, the same thing. Um, it's just a little bit flat in there, and they could have done a little more. They could have got more of a expert. They could have paid a guy who knows how to brew IPAs really well, like a few $1,000, and he would have set him up with an awesome recipe. And man, seriously, man, like you find a home brewer that's really good at brewing IPAs, you like his recipe, you throw the guy $5,000, he's gonna come and show you how to brew it. It's not a fucking issue. There's no excuse for this, really. I mean, it is pretty nice in a way, but it's definitely natural gas, cat pissy a bit in the finish. So do be warned on that. Grapefruit, little piney in there. I don't know, but they're both pretty creamy. Anyway, I'm just repeating this. This is I'm so much milliliters into the review now, I guess. Yeah, not the same beer at all. Canadian Goose. A bit of a disappointment. I'm gonna score this one 6 out of 11. There's a lot of macro beers I take over this. Not a ton, but several at least macro beers. Especially when we're dealing with Mexican cerveza and Euro lagers for damn sure. There's even a couple American macro that I would take over this, and that's saying a lot for me personally. I'm not an American macro fan, but Rebel IPA I prefer over the Goose. Even though it's cat piss sulfur city, I'm gonna. I don't know. It's actually the thing about the Rebel is, and this is the thing. Don't let it sit around too long, because as soon as it really just starts emanating sulfurous cat piss aromas with time, as it degasses and opens up, it just really starts to stink. And as the Goose sits around, it actually gets better. So if you're a fast drinker and you want to slam shit, I go for the Rebel. If you want to sit around and savor some shitty craft beer, go for the Goose. Either way, I wouldn't go for either of these ever again. I just buy awesome fucking craft beer from local breweries. And there's been a lot of stigma around, oh, those guys sold out, and everyone's pissed off, and then everyone says, oh, that's great for distribution. But I think, all in all, I mean, it's you're better off to support the local guys because they're weaker. I mean, they don't have the capital and shit that the bigger guys do. If you look how breweries keep expanding and expanding, expanding, it's like Soylent Green. Pretty soon they're going to be brewing people and feeding it to you. So don't play that shit. Don't play that shit. I won't play into that shit, and I'll say it up front for everybody. Don't play into that shit, because like there's certain local craft breweries that just bring it. They just fucking bring it, and it's cheap, and they bring it, and it's great until they sell out. So keep the mindset in that selling out it's not fucking cool. This is what happens when people sell out. You get fucking shitty beers from Goose Island, and you get shitty beers from Sam Adams, and that's just the way it goes. Beerzerker! I'm gonna give this one like a 6. I'm gonna give this one a solid 6 out of 11, and this one actually about the same. I'm gonna give these both fucking 6. They're both exactly the same. This is a shitty representation of an East Coast IPA, which isn't even, like, the IBUs on this are only 55. And in my opinion, you got to be at least, okay, 55, but it doesn't even taste like 55. It tastes weaker than that. It tastes like a 40 or 30 IBU beer. It's not big. The Sam Adams is definitely in the hop category. It's definitely fitting the style guidelines. This one's a little bit, I don't know. This one is definitely an IPA at least. So maybe I'm going to throw Sam Adams in half a point. I'm going to give him 6.5, and this is 6. And that's all there is to it. That's it. That's it. So Goose, the fucking Goose Juice was a fail. Almost a fail. Almost a fail. I can drink it, but I'm really, because it was Goose Island, and everyone said it was shit and this and that. And I thought, well, sometimes people are fucked. But you know what? It is shit. It's fucking shit. And this, I was expecting even a little bit better out of Sam Adams. Not as disappointed though. So I gotta give them the half a point. Wish I had the American Goose. Yeah. So anyway, that's the way she goes. In Crocodile. And I'm out.